Good afternoon. Welcome to OptionsTender. It's Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. October 10th, 2025. We're going to take a look at the SPX and SPY and the VIX. We're going to focus mainly on this video. We'll go do other indices in over the weekend, but I want to remind you exactly where I think price is going. Okay, we're starting our correction here. Sure, it could be a liquidation and we go higher. That's always a possibility, but now we have a situation where it's likely we have our reversal, and I think that's showing up with all those divergences. Okay, so here's the by the way, we're doing this intraday about 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. If you want to get these videos intraday, consider becoming a YouTube supporter. It's 99 cents on YouTube, and there's Patreon as well, but you get the better deal through YouTube. I was trying to funnel everybody through there, but yeah, let's just jump into it. We have SPX on the weekly time frame. All right, we're looking at just the naked chart. We have a bearish engulfing so far. I do believe we'll get that. I don't think this move is quite done yet, but we should have a little bit of pause. So that's why I'm doing the video now, and we'll look at that on the 65-minute as well. And so just from this chart itself, the moving averages, you have our 8 EMA. So the momentum on the weekly time frame still up. I do think we'll test that next week. We have this 20 moving average, which is this is my most important moving average on the 20 on the weekly time frame for huge trends. Okay, now clearly the trend has been up here. We held on to the 20 almost all of this trip up. And when we did break down, we regained it and continued. All right. This is kind of the bull bear swing for me is this indicator. All right. So if we pull up the traditional look here, we have our 1929 trend line. It coincides directly with that 20 moving average. So I think that's our first target. It also is going into a consolidation area here. And so I do believe we'll probably get a reaction off of that first one, bounce off of it. And this is just speculation. We break down from the 8, we get to the 20, bounce, reject off of that 8, maybe spike through it and start heading lower. And then our next target where we will start to really dig into, is this just a 3-wave move correction and we go higher, or are we really breaking down? This will be the big test here. We're right at that 50-week and the 6,100 level, former all-time highs. All right, so that's where I'm looking at from the weekly point of view. If we move down to the daily, let's mark where you should be able to see it on the other time frames, but the 20 is at about 63.50. Okay, so moving to the daily, we'll first pull up the naked chart here. And this is what I was warning. You have this grind to the upside. And yes, we shorted it as we got to the wedge tops there. And it all just happens at once. Who cares what the news is? I think that it was China tariffs today. The chart sets up and then you get the news. So we got the news there. We're reversed, huge engulfing candle. We took out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, almost 10 days of trading, 2 trading weeks, all just about taken out. So we're getting a miniature bounce here. We're losing that 8 EMA. We're losing the 20 trend EMA. 20 simple moving average. So the 8 is the momentum indicator, 8 EMA. We're losing that. We have the 20 simple moving average that we're starting to lose this time. So it's not going to be that easy. We'll probably get a significant bounce. It's just a little bit lower, I suppose. And then we'll be looking for a bounce and then a continuation lower. So let's pull up our trend. So we're poking through the 20 exponential moving average, everything's green here. We have a sell signal on the daily time frame, which is pretty darn rare, right? These were bought, and other than that, this is the only other sell signal that started to get underneath this 20. So we'll see if we hold it for today, but we should get a reaction somewhere around here. And ultimately, we're looking at this smart MACD, and we're starting to get red here. We had the negative divergence that's going to play out. You'll see it on the lower time frame as well. All right, we looked at the moving averages. Well, we'll coincide that with the traditional technical analysis here. And here's our wedge. This is the wedge that formed the trend line much lower down here. Formed this trend, had a stick save here. And then we started to get really tight in price action. Throw over this wedge. We're trying to keep this intact here. There's other ways you can look at it. We'll look at it in SPY as well. But either way, we drew this new trend line from former all-time highs, and it really started to work out and pinch price here. So I left that on there, and we rejected off of it. All right, so we have a clean sell signal on this wedge setup here. Okay, and now if you notice where that 6,350, here's that 100-day moving average. That's the turquoise. That's the 1929 trend line. We'll be looking for a reaction off of there. All right, and then lower, you have your 200, and you have the former all-time highs right in the 6,100 area. All right, so we'll keep an eye out on that. So let's look at our McClellan oscillator. This is what we continue to look at. Breadth was just getting weaker and weaker, and you just really start relying on the big names. And when the big names give out, that's when all hell breaks loose. We're deeply down here. Do we see a little positive divergence when we get our bounce? Sure, this could chop around for a little bit. We don't know what it's going to look like, but if you look at this, for example, we start here. We're at all-time highs, but breadth is really bad right here. And you see it chop, 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 chop lower. It doesn't make a big move to go lower here, but you see price makes a big move lower. So it doesn't have to move sharp down here. You can bounce around for a little bit as price goes down. But right now, the whole theme of things is we're really weak in the overall market. So here's our MACD setup here. Had that divergence falling through here. We're finally getting a red histogram. So we had this near-term negative divergence from this peak to this peak. And so I think that's starting to play out now, and we should see some red histograms really start to expand there as price, as the yellow leader line diverges from the MACD line, from the blue line. So we're getting into this oversold territory, but we're weak. All right, we have plenty of room to the downside to go. This is just showing weakness there. We have negative divergence that played out. This can get very green, and by the time we get done with an impulse wave, I'm looking for a 5-wave move. We should see a nice green area down here with possibly a positive divergence. And look for a bounce. So the slow stoke is just now playing out. You see there's plenty of room to the downside. So as this gets weaker here, you should see a move that cycles all the way through. We're not there yet. We have lots of room. So make sure you watch these videos each and every day. We want to keep looking at these things. And by the time we get lower down to these points, then, maybe take some risk off. Look for a bounce, or if you're bullish, look for, a next move higher. Here's our DMARC. Right, we had that 9-count exhaustion sell signal yesterday. We were looking at such a great indicator. Now you had a 13, you had a 9. Doesn't always form exactly at the top. This one did. Great. All right, nice setup. Let's go to SPY. And we'll check out these targets too in just a minute. So we pulled up these divergences. You know, it took forever. It took forever to get up here. This is playing out. Yeah, this negative divergence here. We're distributing. We should see this move cycle all the way lower when this is said and done. It's going to take, it might take a couple weeks. All right. We have some cycles that we look through, and we have that on the Discord. So join us in the Discord. The 99 cent, it comes with the Discord and trade alerts. It's fantastic. And we talk about our cycles, our cycle lows. Ralph Kaz was talking about the 4-hour cycle lows that are coming in on Monday or Tuesday. So we're going to look for a bounce there. It makes complete sense. It matches with everything else that we have. So thanks, Ralph. So we had DMARC, money flow. And then we had the sell signal off the top of the Bollinger Band. The Bollinger Band was getting tighter, and we did have that sell signal right here for that setup, if that's the type of setup you like. Again, we didn't have the confirmation of a higher move in this time frame. Kind of looking the same as the MACD, right? You had it lower, lower, lower. We got this new peak, but then we couldn't get a newer peak to extend the move here. So we started trading lower. Okay, so let's look at this traditional look. And this is the channel that we had. We had a wedge that was sharply vertical. Then we had a channel that started to level out a little bit. And then we started to form a much more horizontal channel as well. We're not there yet. Maybe we do get here, and that's where we get the bounce. And I wouldn't be surprised because we have a nice support around this area as well. You see these two wicks. Doesn't have to go to the bottom of the wicks. But the support zone starts here at about 656 or so, and a little bit lower. And that coincides right here with this possible channel. So we'll be looking out for this price action right down here going into Monday, and maybe turn around Tuesday for a significant bounce. And we'll be looking for a head and shoulder. So you have the neckline wherever it starts, wherever it ends here. Then we have the left shoulder. I'll actually use these arrows here. We'll be looking for a right shoulder. Here's the head. And there's the left shoulder. So we'll keep this intact here. And we'll keep an eye on that. That's not what I wanted to get rid of that arrow. All right, so we'll be looking for this formation here. Okay. Let's go. Let's look at our big picture here. Here's what we're constantly looking for. Okay, we have these retracements here. 635. Does that sound familiar? That's exactly where we're looking to have some sort of maybe bounce after this head and shoulders. And I bet you anything, if we measured this out, it would end up being right down here to 635. So the 635 is going to be important to us. And then after that, we're looking at this 612, former all-time highs, also a fib cluster right here as well. All right, and that just happens to be the 23.6 and a 382. Now, I have this as an A, B, and then C higher if we do make higher prices, okay? Or wherever we stop this B wave, that could be potentially a 1. And if we get a lower high and continue lower, we'll be looking for that wave 2. And then wave 3, 4, 5, much lower, okay? So that's our big picture of the levels, 612, 635. Now let's go over to the VIX quickly. Because some people have this as a hub.com. We're keeping an eye on that in the members videos. And this is a 1, 2, and this is wave 3 ending here. And we're looking for a wave 4 and then wave 5 higher. Doesn't really matter if you're an A or B or 4 or 5. It just doesn't matter. Okay, so here's your VIX. Ooh, VIXy, I've never seen that one. Okay, here's your VIX. This is what we've been kind of screaming at. We're looking for a big move. And so we're there. We had this wedge, the primary wedge started to break out. And then we had this secondary wedge here that formed. Also now a triangle. And you really had this compact look here. Just price action. You know, we thought we had the breakout. It was a back test. And look at those moving averages. You know, fighting, but we had this 8 that was holding everything. And we finally tagged that 20 right down here with a inverse hammer setup and a huge move. Now, when this is said and done, when we do get our possible wave 1 into wave 2, we'll probably have a wick here or a move underneath this 200 moving average. And then we have a lot of market structure, positive market structure for the VIX. So after we get our wave 1 initial done into Monday or Tuesday, we have a cycle low here going into an ideal low around that's around 1020. So that brings us into 12, 13. It brings us into the end of next week where the actual cycle low could happen. So we'll look to see when we get in this territory, are we just going to get a higher low and we continue the structure higher? That's what I'm starting to look for. We have the breakout, we had the back test, and this is a really good, learning lesson. When you have triangles that form, more times than not, you have the breakout, then a back test, and then boom, you're moved there. So not quite up to the 23 level. We do have resistance in this zone that we're at now. Clearly, we're backing off of here. But I do suspect that we might get to this one first by Monday or Tuesday. So we'll keep an eye out for that. And now let's go to SPY on the 65. Because we need to hash out what's going on in this near term. So here's your traditional look here. We were already kind of set up to look for a inverse or for a head and shoulder, excuse me. Here's your neckline. If price goes further, it doesn't have to. Again, here's your options expected move. We're getting a bounce. We're probably going to bear flag here. I think on the lower time frame that we're looking at a wave 4. So we have our initial impulse wave where you can't see a whole lot in there. So it's just a guess where we have a 1, 2, 3. We're flagging at 4. And then we get a 5th wave that might pierce through here. But you should see some sort of oversold conditions or positive divergence for a bounce at some point. All right, and then you'll test the moving averages. But we lost that 8 and the 20, so that's the important part on this one. We've already changed trend here. We had the sell signal. Now, I know it's not red. It's because the 1 week period has not closed underneath the last week. You'll see this change. This will change red into the next trading day. But we had the divergence play out. We showed the last example from high. You had a higher high, but you had a lower high in the Smart MACD. This really smooths it out, and so that's what we had here. And now we're playing this out. We saw the moving averages. We're rolling over here now. We're oversold, but we can go lower. And not only that, we can form positive divergence on the 65 minutes. So that's what we'll be keeping an eye out. And by the way, if we make this neckline, if we come to close this gap or come near the gap or bounce off of it, then we'll look for the neckline to be around this area. We get some sort of bounce and we come back into here for a 1, 2, and then wave 3. And look where that takes us, right to these new lows here. And so that's it's 635 on the dot. Okay, so that's just kind of things we have to keep an eye out. Does everything work out perfectly like this all the time? No, obviously not. But I will say when we start moving and having moves to the downside, they're much more clean when they're impulsive. to the downside than they are to the upside. You get really choppiness that holds the market up forever, stair steps, and then you have the elevator down where it's much more clean moves. So we'll be keeping an eye here. I don't need this anymore. I mean, we could use it. No, I don't need this. So we'll look for this measured move if and when we get this last move down here. If we bounce directly from here, then it'll be probably just a slanted head and shoulder, and that's fine too. D-mark. Okay, we're counting to the downside. We have a 1-2 so far. No setup. Money flow. Distribution, we had the negative divergence, and we're looking for that to cycle lower. And hopefully, when we see this, hopefully we'll, on these, any next moves lower, hopefully we'll see this all the way down, you know, to hit the lower end, and then we can get our bounce out of it. We'll be looking for a setup for a bounce. Right now we're hedged, we're almost neutral because we had the meat of the trade here. Fantastic trades. We added on today, as a matter of fact. And now we're almost neutral, biased to the downside at this point, and then we'll look for the bounce and we'll look to sell the rip. Bollinger Band, that setup played out. You know, the band's expanding now. We hit the top of the band with overbought conditions, sold off. Are we in the bottom of the band? Yeah, absolutely. So we have, you know, in the very near term, a buy signal. And that's what gave us our bounce. I still do think we push lower, but we'll see. LA to oscillator starting to get into the red. We had that non-confirmation of each high that we made here, lower highs here. So we're getting the red. We should whipsaw probably for a little bit. And then eventually we should be mostly in the red. All right, what does this look like on... I haven't updated any of this. All that moved so quick. So the only updates I pretty much have, I'll take these off to clear the board up, is that we have this move done here, up here. Okay, so this is wave 4 and wave 5. Now, SPY hit a new high by a penny. So it's going to keep us in limbo here. Was this the high? And we have an A expanded B into C and we go higher? All right. Is that an extension for a 1-2? That's kind of the big question for the bull scenario. SPX made a lower high here. Okay. That doesn't matter to me. We're going to look and we're going to play this. We're going to manage our moves here. So I have this as a 1-2 right here with this tail candle and then a bounce. And so we're looking for the top of wave 3, which is where this little dot is, down to the bottom of this move. We don't know if 4 and 5 is already done between this bounce and this new low. But if we hold the lows, we already made and rejected off the 23.6. So our very important level will be 382. We should, if we get up to the 382, that would be a nice area for wave 4. We're getting possibly an A into a B and then a C going into maybe Monday or today or whatever. We want to see 382 hold. We make those new lows to set us up for that head and shoulder neckline. All right. So this could be, and then I think a less probable situation is that this is already done. And so if we start to get above the 382, then I think what's happening now is that we're starting our, let's see if I can, here we go. So if wave 1 is already done, then we should make it up to the 50, 60, 70% area before breaking down lower. Like I said, I don't think that's the case, but we're neutral right now. We want to wait for bigger setups. So if this starts to break down a little bit lower, I'm going to look for those positive divergences. I'm going to look for those setups to the upside and look for a bounce. Play it really lightly because I think we're turning into a downtrend. We're not going to play heavy on calls. We're just going to look for a little scalp. You know, after this wave one is done, we'll look for a 50, 60, even 70% retracement. But right now, we're just worried about this being a wave four. Maybe we just kind of stay here all the rest of the day here and gap down on Monday or so. But then we'll be looking for at least turnaround Tuesday. Could be positive Monday. We'll see. All right. So let this play out, and then we'll look for other setups at this point. So that's what I got for you guys. So the VIX is starting to pull back right now into resistance here. And if we get one more high here, that we'll probably get a new low in SPY. And then we should get a corrective move in the VIX after that. But we close this gap here. All right, well past the options expected move. Just clean move through 19. But keep an eye on this, and we'll go from there. So don't forget, the VIX, it's signaling. It's past 10%. It's up to 20%. It's giving us a high probability that within Monday or Tuesday, we get a bounce. So that fits exactly with the scenario that we're talking about. All right. Thanks for joining me here at OptionsTender. Have a wonderful day. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the Discord.